So just a week to go and we're going to see round 5 of this year's Rugby Championship competition, and there's some big decisions to be made by the coaches before they head into these games, and the decisions are based around, of course, the team selections but also the strategy they're going to use to beat their competition. I think this is going to be one of the really interesting aspects of it. So in today's video I'm going to talk about the decisions that some of the coaches are going to have to make, or all of the coaches are going to have to make, and some of the selection issues they're going to have as well. So let's get on with today's episode. G'day everyone, welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. If you haven't been here before, my name's Mark. I'm a huge Kiwi rugby fan. I'm living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico, and I'm also now the founder of United Rugby Fans. Yes, URF is just going to be launched, and what it is, it's a global platform for rugby fans to come together, to unite and to work towards working with World Rugby to develop our beautiful game across the world. There's going to be more in this video about that, but let me get on with this particular episode, and I'm going to be talking about the decisions that Rassie, Razor, Felipe Contaponi and Joe Schmidt have to make ahead of next weekend's games in the Rugby Championship. And for me, there's some very interesting decisions that need to be made, because there's two teams coming off a loss and there's two teams coming off a win next weekend, and those teams are playing each other. So for the first time in this year's Rugby Championship, we're going to have a team losing 2 games in a row, and we're going to have a team winning 2 games in a row. So that's a really interesting dynamic that's going on next weekend. But let's have a look at some of the team decisions that have to be made by these coaches ahead of next week's game. And I'm going to start off with Felipe Contaponi, because his team is going to Kings Park in Durban, a good hunting ground for the Pumas over the years, having a good win there in the past in 2015. But this year it's going to be very different. The Boks are playing a different kind of game. They are a very, very special team at the moment, and Felipe Contaponi is going to have to come up with some pretty important decisions on how he's going to take on this Boks team. And for me, some of those decisions are the following. The first one is Thomas Albanos is back, and he appears to be fit and healthy and ready to go. So the question is, does he bring Albanos straight in to this Pumas team and start him as number 10? This is a big decision for me, because I'm an absolutely huge fan of Thomas Albanos, and I think he's the guy that really gets this Argentine backline away and shows some really good creativity. Of course, he's a great kicker. He's got that great left kick, of course. He's brilliant off the kicking tee as well. But here's the conundrum. The conundrum is Santiago Carreras has been playing very well since they bet the All Blacks at home in Buenos Aires for the first time in the history of Los Pumas, and they went to Australia and won one of those games and came very close to winning the second game. You can't really say that Santiago Carreras has not been playing well at 10. So the decision, first of all, that Felipe Contaponi needs to make is, does Carreras go to the bench, and does Thomas Albanos start this game? That's going to be one of the interesting things, because I think that could have a huge impact on this particular game. The next decision that I see that Felipe Contaponi is going to have to make for the Pumas team against the Boks in Durban is going to be around the loose forwards for the Pumas. Who does he select to start this game? We've seen fantastic performances so far this year from Juan Martin Gonzalez, from Pablo Materia, from Marcos Crema, and of course from Joaquim Oviedo at number 8. But how does he play these 4 players, and who does he start and who does he bring off the bench? Well, I think it's going to be super important to have the biggest guys on the field as possible to start this game. So I would go with Pablo Matera, Marcos Crema, and then at the back, Joaquim Oviedo, and I would bring Juan Martin Gonzalez off the bench. That's how I would see it for Contaponi in this particular game. I think one of the biggest challenges for Contaponi in this game against the Boks is going to be that forward battle, and I think you want to start off the game with your top heavyweights on the field and bring someone like Martin Gonzalez off the bench, who can have a huge impact at the back end of a game, because he's very good in open play as well. And at that stage of the game, that's what Argentina might actually be looking for. So that's how I would go. Look, before I carry on with that video, I just want to tell you about United Rugby Fans. Yes, URF is your opportunity to join me in creating the biggest rugby fan community around the world. I want to create an organisation that holds World Rugby responsible for the growth and development of our beautiful game across the world. I want people from Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, North America, and across the UK and Ireland to come and join me in my efforts to try and make sure that we get the game that we want. We want to address these refereeing decisions. We want to address the investment in the game on both the men's and the women's side. So United Rugby fans is going to get a seat at the table with World Rugby to make sure all these decisions are going to be made in line with our vision for the beautiful game. There's 500 million rugby fans across the world. There's 10 million players, and we are the game of rugby. And it's time that we started to unite together to make sure we get the changes and we get the game that we want. So I'm asking you to come and join me on this amazing journey to set up this incredible organisation. So I'm asking you to come and join me in developing this organisation and spreading it across the world by developing chapters in every country where rugby is played. And we're going to make a huge difference in our beautiful game. Now, if you want to get involved in this initiative, all you have to do is go to the email address in the description of today's video and send me an email, and we'll start a communication. I know some of you are going to sit back and go, this is a great idea, I'm just going to watch how it develops. And I know others of you are wanting to get involved and help me right from the get-go. So this is your opportunity. Jump in now and we'll make a difference to World Rugby. Thanks for watching, and now let's get back to the video. Now the next decision I think Contepone's going to have to look at is around his locks for this particular game. Of course, he's got Rubiolo, he's got Molina, and he's got Piti to choose from, and I think this is going to be a big decision because the quality of ball from set piece is going to be paramount for the Argentines. Now I think they're going to have to really focus on getting some quality possession in this game. They don't need to dominate the box, they can score tries and win the game by getting 45 or 48% of the possession in this game, but it's got to be quality possession. So I think this locking decision on who he puts on the field to start off with is going to be a huge one also for Contepone. So I think that's the biggest decision that Contepone has to make in this game. Does Thomas Albanos start? What's his loose forwards going to look like? And who does he put into those locking positions? That's going to be really, really key. In terms of the game plan, well, I think there's only one way this Argentine team plays, and that's open, expansive game. And if we see the Boks and what they did against the All Blacks in the second half in Wellington, if they come out with that intent, then this game's going to be rather juicy. But I don't think that's going to be the case from Rassie, and I'll talk about that in this particular video. So there we go. That's where I think the decisions that Felipe Contepone needs to make for that game against the Springboks. Now let's move on to the All Blacks, and they're going to be playing against Australia, of course, at Eden Park. The record's going to be on the line again, and this is going to be an incredibly important decision for Scott Razor Robertson. He looks at the team that he needs to play. Now the All Blacks didn't play well under the high ball yet again. They didn't have a great impact off the bench, and they fell away totally mentally in that game against the Boks in Wellington last weekend. So what does Razor need to do in terms of decisions? Well, I think he does have to look at the selections, and if you haven't seen my previous video about that, go and check it out because I've put my views and thoughts around that. A lot of you were excited about the back line in particular that I have picked, knowing that Razor's not going to do that. But I think Razor needs to look at some of these key elements of the game where the All Blacks are just not firing at the moment. And as much as I'd love to say it, I'd love to see Ruben Love come in at number 10 and Beauden Barrett go back to the bench with Damien McKenzie. I think those two coming off the bench would be great, but I can see that Razor's not going to do it. So who's going to be the playmaker in this game against the Wallabies? I think that's going to be an important decision for Razor to make in this particular lead up to the game, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go with Beauden Barrett again because he's entrusted with Beauden most of the time, and I can't see him changing that particular decision. What he might do though is he might look at a new combination in the midfield and on the wings. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Caleb Clark coming back in, and we might see Leroy Carter go to the bench for this particular game. So I think that's one of the decisions that we might see Razor making. Then what's he going to do in the forwards? We've got the loose trio. A lot of you have been talking about putting Simon Parker back to number 8. For me, that makes a bit of sense, and having Wallace Satiti coming in off the bench. And then we've got Ardi at 7. And do we move Tupou Vai back to 6? And do we start Fabian Holland at number 4 with Scott Barrett? Those are some of the other decisions that I think Razor's going to need to make. But I think he needs to make a look at his bench and make some decisions around there, because we're just not seeing the kind of impact that we would expect to see from an All Black team off the bench. And this has been happening for some time now. It's not a new phenomenon in All Black rugby. A number of years ago, we used to be brilliant at closing out games. That last 20 minutes, all the teams that used to play against us used to fear our ability to be able to come back and strike late in the game. We haven't seen that from a long time now from this All Black team. So that's something that I'm sure Razor will want to see back into this All Black team, and it may mean that he's got to make some decisions around the bench and the composition of the bench. So might we see some changes on the bench, and who could they be? Has du Plessis-Karefi been doing the job as far as you're concerned, coming off the bench? And do we see someone like Josh Lord coming in? He played fantastic for Taranaki in the weekend against Hawke's Bay. So let me know in the comments what you think around the decisions that Razor has to make in regards to the All Black. Now, the game plan against the Wallabies, what's it going to be? Well, I don't think it's going to be any different than what we've seen the All Blacks tried to play so far in this year's Rugby Championship, where they have clicked on a couple of occasions. They've looked very good at running the ball. It just hasn't been consistent enough, and they haven't been able to put the defensive system in place to keep their opposition out during this year's Rugby Championship. We've seen the Pumas score a lot of points against them. We've seen the Springboks score a lot of points, and we know the Wallabies have a lot of potential to do the same thing. So the defensive system needs to be very strong in this game from the All Blacks. Now, moving on to the Wallabies and Joe Schmidt, what can we expect at Eden Park? Well, there's some sad news for the Wallabies. First of all, Rob Valentini has done his calf injury again, and he's not going to be playing in this game. A huge blow to the Wallabies, and of course they're already going to be without Will Skelton, who's gone back to La Rochelle to play for his club in Europe. And of course they're missing players like Tom Wright as well and Dylan Pearch. So there's been a lot of disruption again to this Wallabies team, and that means we're probably going to see Tom Hooper and Fraser McWright take the 6 and 7 jerseys. So that's a decision that we're going to have to see made by Joe Schmidt. The other decision he's going to make is, well, he got James O'Connor to fly 51 hours during the week, so I hope it's worth it. And I hope he's going to put James O'Connor in this team. I think the Australian team looks much better with James O'Connor as the master stroke at number 10. So that's another decision that he's going to have to make. Or does he bring Tom Liner in again, who is available for selection? Now, other selections I think that are going to be interesting from Joe Schmidt for this particular game are going to be out wide. What are they going to do at 12 and 13? I thought Hunter Paisami did pretty well, but is Len Ekitau going to be back with Joseph Sua-Ali? And then on the wings, is it going to be Max Jorgensen and Corey Toole? Or are we going to see a change up there? Could Harry Potter be back in the mix? And what about fullback? Is it going to be Andrew Callaway? All these questions and decisions for Joe Schmidt to make. But it's up front that Joe Schmidt needs to focus, I think, and he needs to make sure that front row is going to be good. Taniela Tupou has been a little bit questionable throughout this Rugby Championship for me, giving away too many penalties, bringing down too many scrums, and putting the Australians on the back foot in some of the open play situations where he's gone in with no arms tackles, and he's also dropped the ball while in running play. If he's able to reduce these errors in his game, Taniela Tupou, he can be one of the best props in the world. Does Joe Schmidt bring in James Slipper for this game and bring that experience into the front row? I've really liked the way Slipper's been playing this year, and he adds that dimension of toughness but also that grand experience, and I think you can't go beyond that when you're playing the All Blacks at Eden Park. And just the build up to the game alone, I think James Slipper will be very important in that process for a lot of these young players in this Wallabies team. And then at halfback, what does Joe Schmidt do there? Jake Gordon's back, or do we go with Tate McDermott? Nick White has retired, so another upheaval in this Wallabies team. So a number of decisions for Joe Schmidt to make. Let me know in the comments what you think he's going to do around some of those positional changes that I spoke about. Now, what game is he going to play against the All Blacks? I think this is going to be the most critical decision that Joe Schmidt makes this week. There must be a huge pull and magnet to go to that high ball game and try and disrupt the All Blacks at the back three with the likes of Jorgensen and Toole competing under the high ball and getting Joseph Sua-Ali in there as well. That could cause chaos for the All Blacks in the backs. But running at the All Blacks back line as well, that could be something else that Joe Schmidt does. So he's got to make sure, I think, he gets the balance right between putting the high ball up and setting his back line away. Depending on the conditions at Eden Park, that could be something else that drives that motivation as well. If we've got another wet day and it's slippery there, it could be the high ball all day long. However, if it's hard and firm underfoot, then we could see the Wallabies trying to take the All Blacks on. We saw what they did at Ellis Park. Is this going to be a historic year for the Wallabies, where they beat the Springboks at Ellis Park after 60 years and they beat the All Blacks at Eden Park after 30 years? I would not write off the Wallabies in this adventure of going to Auckland next weekend at all. But those are some of the key decisions that I think Joe Schmidt needs to make. Now finally, what about the Springboks and what's Rassie going to do this week? We've got some sad news, of course, that Rassie has gone under the knife. He's had surgery in South Africa, so he's going to be out for some time. It's a sad thing to see when any player gets an extended injury, no matter what team they play for. So I extend my best wishes to Mr. Rassie and hope that he gets well very soon. We've also got Luke de Jager missing from the Springboks and Jean-Luc Dupree as well, out through injury and not going to be considered for the squad against the Argentines in Durban or in Twickenham. So that's a bit of sad news for the Boks. But the main thing as far as decision goes for Rassie, what game does he want to play against the Argentines? Are we going to see a duplication of what we saw in the second half in Wellington? I don't think so. I think we're going to see Handré Pollard back into this team for the Springboks to start this game. And I think we're going to see the control and the high ball contest and the forwards trying to dominate and get territory and possession. And then I think if the game opens up a little bit with the Springboks having control, I think we might see the likes of either Mani Lebok or Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu come off the bench and start to show their talents again. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Damian Willems start at fullback in this particular game against the Argentines at Kings Park. So I think the biggest decision Rassie needs to make before he even considers the team is what type of game he wants to play against the Argentines, and then from there he'll know the players that he needs to bring in. So no doubt about it, the Boks have got a plethora of forwards to choose from. If they're going to play that upfront game and try to dominate the Pumas forward pack, which I think is their best chance, is that I think he needs to have this best forward pack on the field. We saw great improvement from Malcolm Marks, I thought, in the second test. Oxen Chair has to be a ring-in, of course, and Wilco Lowe made a fantastic impact coming off the bench. So those are some of the decisions that Rassie will have to make around those particular players. Do we see Eben Etzebeth coming back into this one? And do we see RG Schneemann starting again in the locking position? The back three is going to be also important with Siya Kolisi. We're going to see probably Marco van Staden and Peter Steph de Toy, and Jasper Wiese is back, of course. So a decision around the loosies. Let me know in the comments which way you think Rassie's going to go with this lot. So I think it's going to be really important what game plan Rassie comes up with. I think this Argentine backline is one of the best backlines in world rugby, given the opportunity, no matter who their competition is, and I put South Africa in there as well, that they can beat any team on their given day if they get enough quality ball. And I think that's where this game is going to be won and lost. So there's some of the decisions around what I think Rassie's going to have to make this week with the players that he's missing, but also with what we saw in Wellington versus what he wants to do against this Pumas team. So there you go. There's my smorgasbord of ideas around what decisions the coaches need to make this week as we head into round 5 of this year's Rugby Championship competition. Let me know down below in the comments what you think around the decisions the respective coaches need to make. What are the biggest decisions facing them this week? I'd really love to hear from you all on that. Now, another thing I need to ask your help on, YouTube is not very proactive in sharing my videos with you all and letting you know when I've posted a video. So the best way you can do that is to hit the subscribe button and then press the bell notification. And every time I drop a video, you will be notified. I know that many of us live in different time zones across the world and you may not know what time I'm dropping a video. So if you hit that bell notification, hit the subscribe button, you will be notified when I drop a video and we don't miss out on each other's company. So there we go. That's it for this video. I'll be back again very soon. Don't forget about United Rugby fans. We have to push this mission forward. We need to have a voice at the table, and I am absolutely committed to making this happen, but I can only do it if we join forces together as a team across World Rugby. I'll see you again really soon in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching everyone. It's adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Bye for now.